You got the lead.
Okay,
Edward, go ahead and brief us. Tell us a little bit.
everybody should have a packet in front of them. Just some preliminary comments. The year-to-date activity is for 9 months of the fiscal year, so it's October, November, December, and through the end of June of this year. So year-to-date activity is 9 months. So, we'll just go down and, any questions, but, the property taxes, we assume a 3.5% increase. Now, Josie, Tom seems to think there's a potential to get more up to 8, is that?
There's talk about because of the pandemic that we may be able to go up to the 8% without it triggering an election, but that's up in the air. So we still have a little bit of time before we calculate it. Well, we don't calculate it, that count, Fraser does, but
And we have, I think it's the 25th where we have to turn in, right? The 25th of July, we have to go ahead.
that's when the chief appraisers have to turn in their values to us.
And we have to take care of that portion of it. So let's see if there's any discussion. I know it's only a week, 2 weeks away, but we definitely,
They're gonna have to do something about this timeline.
unfortunately, we got to follow it unless it changes.
Well, I know, but they make it hard to get a budget together when, that's one of the main components of the budget, the general fund. You gotta have a budget file before you even get the values, come on.
Okay, so, you know, we can just go down the list. A lot of these line items don't change. I've highlighted the ones that I thought were significant and material. Obviously, the city sales tax is higher, which is good. And we think the motel tax will increase simply due to more people traveling with the pandemic subsides.
This is also based on what we're collecting from Best Western right now.
So we already have 71 already
Yeah.
to date.
And we got 3 months to go,
Yeah, so,
so. But that's one of the items we're gonna ask them for an amendment on probably at the second meeting in July.
and under the permits and inspections, that's pretty much tied to the new construction. So more houses need more inspections. You don't expect any COVID relief additional funds for the next fiscal year, so that's why that's zero.
Well, it's not gonna be CRF, what's it called, ARP? That's, it's gonna be almost 670,000, right?
So it's going to be on the agenda for Monday, so everybody know. There was guidance that was submitted that went out from the state and we gave it to Josie, so we'll get into that a little bit more. There is a timetable, we have to apply by the 2nd of
And you
August.
got less than a month to get
It's
there.
a critical gate to go ahead and do that. So there's a lot of back and forth, just so you know right now, from some of the suburban city mayors and trying to decide how quickly so hopefully the state responds really quick in being able to take care of this, but we'll talk about it a little bit more.
And the garbage collection fee, that increase is strictly due to vendor going up on their prices.
That's a CPI adjustment, is that what it is? Okay.
And the fines, which he's assured me guaranteed.
Whoa.
305,000 next year. Obviously, it should pick up once the pandemic is, things get back to normal. Is that fair to say?
I would think that number wasn't terribly high based on what you said we collected in during the pandemic year or whatever. You know, of course, a lot of it's tied to what the court does, you know, I mean, it's a whole group thing. But I know that we're gonna see probably a lot more increased enforcement as we, I just got an email this morning from a lady complaining about speeders. And, so it's my opinion. I think fulfilled.
And the rest of these are fairly,
It stayed pretty much the same.
yeah, no change from previous year, so for the most part. Under page 2, pretty much the same story. We are saying 50,000 will be available from previous year as opposed to 77 last fiscal year. So that is it on the revenue side.
So about 3.5 million.
Now, the admin salaries, we have a 3% salary increase, which is for all employees. And that should be full-time city hall employee. The full-time city hall employee is actually gonna be paid from the sewer fund, you know?
The additional one.
Yeah, the addition, yeah. So that 182 is mainly Josie, myself, and Skip. And, Mayor, I know you mentioned the city manager, administrator position. That 90,000 is not in the 182, so if we do go that route, we'll have to adjust the salary number for that number. But that decision hasn't been made yet.
About the same thing, have we put the 17,000 on a part-time employee in there?
No. That's what he said, you put it in the sewer.
Yeah, the part-time, well, it's actually full-time, but if you pay that with sewer, we're getting the sewer
But
back.
we haven't made that decision either.
Okay, but it's.
So I'm
it's in-
saying if
it's
we're
in the
putting it in
numbers.
there, then let's add the 90 on there, okay? And then let the council go ahead and decide that.
So
Because remember, the biggest thing that we're trying to do right now is put everything in there for consideration. And for us to have it in there and find out what that gap is. And based on what that gap is, find out sources of how we're gonna be able to fill the gap. I mean, what we have heard so far, and I'm not just talking about the salary, I'm just saying, in general, I think every department head that came to us and said, these are things that are necessary, I really don't think that any of those are wants. A lot of those are needs, things that they actually need. So as we go through this, we need to incorporate that so we can figure out what that gap is. So then we have options for the council to be able to decide, okay, how can we fill the gap? Okay?
So we'll add back the city administrator position to these numbers.
And we'll have to adjust the social security
All
requirements,
those, yeah.
insurance.
So,
So you said it's, that 182 is Josie, Skip, and,
me.
okay. Thank you.
And to go down the numbers, you can see, some of them have slight increases. Not anything major. Expect to spend a little bit less on the audit next year. Attorneys, and legal fees, we think a lot of the 105 was driven by COVID issues, so as COVID seems to go away, we expect to have less legal issues to deal with COVID, so it should show itself in our legal bills. And I know Tom has worked on a lot of COVID-related issues in the city. So that's why we have that decrease of 30,000.
Did we have? Trying to think of last year, what we actually put for the attorney fees.
Oh, it was 50,000, and then we amended it, hold on a second. Attorney's fees, we had 50, and we amended it to 105,000.
But that was based on.
The original budget was 50,000, and then we went up to
So
105,000.
then what we're doing now is we're going from 50,000 to 75,000.
No, from 105,000 down to 75. The original budget was 50,000, we amended it to
Yeah, but that's based
105.
on expenses.
Right.
Previous years that we had, we were in the 50s, weren't we? 50, 55?
Well, okay, I thought you asked what we had budgeted. We budgeted 50 originally,
Mhm.
and then we amended it to 105,000, and now Edward's proposing 75,000, going down to 30 from 105.
I don't know if his, dealing with COVID, like.
Oh, yeah. No, we did go up, but in the sense of what we actually originally budgeted, what we actually had. So we had. We're at about 50, so it was 37,000, 45,000, and then we were going down to 47 in the previous years. So I know that we had gone to 50, so that tells you the range. He's always been around there.
Oh, remember too that we had an increase in the price of the attorney a couple of years ago.
No, I'm just saying in the sense of what we normally do. in that area.
So we need to hire him as the city administrator, we could save money.
So,
I thought it was an idea.
So do you think that's too high, 75?
based on COVID, I understand we had to go up. Totally understand that. But based on what we've actually had in the past, I mean, it looks like we should be around in the 50s. Now, remember, this doesn't have anything to do with the court. There's other funds that are separated. This is just for the legal review and it goes along with that. So, food for thought. Just take into consideration what we've normally had over the previous years.
What about these subdivision and stuff, are gonna be more legal stuff over these kids and stuff like
Yeah, there will be.
So but that you can just adjust out, I guess, when you get
Well,
there.
that's why we put it at the 75. There are things that are pending.
I mean, you could probably leave it at that, I mean, you might not reach that goal. Could be this.
Food for thought.
Okay, the next one that has a material increase is the building inspections, and again, that's tied to new construction, so more housing, more inspections. Office equipment, we are gonna hope to get a new copier for City Hall. That's explains that increase of 8,000. Insurance is going up almost 5%. I think election expense should decrease. You said we had to be in 3 different counties, Jessica,
Well-
so
We had 2 elections this fiscal year, and the rate was high for the first election that was in November because it was handled in 3 counties. It was on the presidential ballot, so. So we should be down to 1 in May. Unless something else happens.
And the legal notices that we post in the Divine News, those should definitely go down simply because of COVID being less of an issue. So you can see the increase from previous years, 23,000. On to police and courts. 3% increase, and we're gonna add 1 officer at 44,000. So,
Is there some way we've tried this before, is there some way we can take the court lady out of police salaries and can we put our overtime in a separate line item? I mean, to me, it's very, it's very confusing when the overtime's just, you don't really know what you've got to play with in overtime or when we have emergency pay or anything, vacation pay. And then you've also got the court lady in there that, I've got to constantly, when I'm looking at my budget, figure out what she makes. I mean, I don't know why the court lady's in with the police
let me ask-
department, so.
Because it's not the police department budget, it's public safety budget.
Well, then,
And
let's,
court is part of public
well,
safety.
but,
I'm sure that we can probably work with the codes.
yeah, I mean, really, it doesn't, I'm just saying if you have a different line item, I mean, we look at it by line item, it's just,
So taking that, Richie, would you be able to say this is how much overtime for the whole year? Because now you're designating how much overtime you're already using. If you're putting it on the budget, so then you can track it. See what I'm saying?
Basically, Diana, it's 40,000.
yeah, sure.
Right,
So,
40,000 and
so how much was in overtime budget this year?
we put in 10,000.
So, I mean,
And
It's
then
just all
you
the
got your
budgets all
incentive
the
pay,
time,
and then you
and-
got your,
your
holiday pay as well that you gotta.
I look
put
at,
in.
budgets all the time, and they have a lot of stuff broken down like the overtime, so you can monitor it. I mean, it just, right now, when we sell vacation back or something, now we never had a trouble with it because we go over or under, the council just amends it, it's not a big deal. So if y'all are comfortable leaving it that way, I don't care. Just, how much overtime did I get this year? How much overtime's in the budget for me this year?
10,000.
For this year?
Oh, but the one that we're in right now, I'd have to go back and check last year to see if.
Oh, no, but so this year you're
This
putting
year's
10,000, which is not very much, but it's better.
But we shouldn't have much overtime if we're gonna have a new officer.
Maybe not, I don't know what's gonna happen.
If
But
you
yeah,
add employees, that cuts back on
So Josie,
overtime.
the 10,000 you're talking about is in a subcategory versus this.
No,
no,
it's in there, it's all part of salaries.
as is the court clerk.
Okay, so it's in the same line item, but it's a sub on there. You track it separately underneath that code.
No, there's no tracking, it is not,
Yeah, I can track it by going on and looking at
no more
what we
than
paid out for each
time
employee,
sheet.
but
I mean, there's no line item where you track it. I could track it by looking at everybody's time sheet, know how much overtime we paid out.
we could probably give you a printout on PDF real quick.
I mean, I have all that, I can tell you how much we paid out in overtime, that's not the issue. I'm just saying it would be nice if there was a line item for
Well,
overtime.
if you already know, then what's the issue?
Well, hell, I don't,
and
it doesn't
it all
matter,
adds in
just
there?
do whatever you wanna do, I'm just bringing it up because we're having a meeting, I just thought it would make more sense.
Well, I thought you said you didn't know what you had to work
Well,
with.
what I'm
and then
saying is, you don't know, you gotta go back and figure it instead of every month,
We'll work to see if we can get another, a sub,
Just a separation.
a
I
sub.
mean, it's just a simple deal to where you can keep an eye on how much you've got in your budget that I'm responsible for, because I've got a salary there, but I've got this court lady in there.
Well, you can just subtract 30,000 and the rest is yours.
Overtime is that you will probably see how much it is, then make sure you use it up.
Oh, yeah, you've been talking to her too long.
Well, he knows you.
So, anyway, well, never mind,
We'll see if we can do some sub.
if you can't, don't worry about it, we'll get it next year or something.
You
We'll
just
work
need
on it.
more visibility in what you're, to see your overtime.
Well, I would just like the court clerk lady to be in her own deal.
Just subtract 40,000.
I would like the court clerk
rest
lady
of
to
the
be in her own deal. You're asking me, you're the finance guy, that's what I'm asking you. Because if that court clerk lady gets sick or retires, that, as far as I'm concerned, that's the public safety budget. I use that for overtime? So they can
No,
go to
because there's
position,
gonna be somebody replacing her.
right away. If she's gone 2 weeks, and if I get 2 weeks, I'm gonna go in there and use that overtime.
All right, you just quit dragging it out.
That's what I'm saying. Every time I bring
We
this
will
up, that's
work
what
on
I
it.
get.
Well, I will see what we can do about maybe getting some sub objects.
So, okay,
Okay, just going down the list here, a lot of these don't change or they go up simply because the salaries are up. These social security, health insurance, retirement are all tied to the salaries, so you can see that what they are is fairly straightforward. Nothing really significant changes there.
So Matt, that's, for the volunteer fire department, just because I can't remember, 7,500, that's what you're asking for?
We'd ask for 1,000, but I understand the city's gotta make concessions, and that's an increase.
That's a typo, it should be 500 a month, not 7,500.
Yeah, no, yeah.
That's,
I've-
it'll be $7,500 a month if they get,
I
and added 500.
added 500 a month.
Yeah, sorry.
We
I
were-
understand there's concessions that have to be made. We're partners.
The first budget that we had that was way over, we had your 2,000 a month in there, but we were in the hole too much.
We're partners with the city.
Okay, a lot of these fees pretty much stay the same. As you can see, we did reduce the miscellaneous equipment, that's from our discussion.
What was it?
It was on your,
How much did we reduce it, 1,000 or something?
Yeah.
How much is it now?
Well, it looks like a lot more because he had that added
Oh, yes, we had two different things.
bonus.
So what is it gonna be? I'm not even.
13,000.
Oh, yeah, that's plenty.
And let's see. Last year's original budget was
Yeah, that's
13,000, and then
fine.
with those added
Yeah.
things,
So it's no increase or decrease, that's fine, that's perfect.
no, it's not really decreased from
Yeah,
the original.
no, it's fine, that's plenty enough.
And the last item is the police vehicles, and let me just talk about this for just a second. Charles, you had mentioned at the last meeting that USDA has a program for vehicles. I spoke to two representatives from their Seguin office. They give both loans and grants based on need. And Vidal is a small enough community to qualify from a size standpoint. They go by household income to determine how much they award. And both individuals I spoke with, they described themselves as a lender of last resort, meaning if we cannot get commercial financing via a third party, bank or whatever, then they will step in. They seldom ever step in for 100% financing in a loan situation. They look and see how much you can get in the market, and then they'll make up the difference. If you can only finance 40,000 of a $70,000 vehicle, they might come in and do the 30,000. So it's not very attractive because it's based on need, and he says it's very competitive, especially for the grants.
And this is USDA,
USDA.
we've heard about the red tape vibrancy.
Yeah, I mean, we
Well,
wouldn't be,
I-
we're not, we
Yeah.
well, we have good enough credit, we don't need to go to rent a center.
I wanted to just investigate it to see if it's worth
Kind of what it is.
pursuing. We may still pursue it, but it does require a lot of 5 years of financial statements and a lot of documentation, but it's worth looking into down the road. It's probably not gonna help us, it will not help us this year due to the lead time and all that, but it's something we can work on for maybe next year. That's something.
What did you tell us that the cost of each car would be? That's
71.5.
71.5?
Yeah, I think so.
So that should be 143 instead of 143.5.
Okay.
And that's more than what
So, are you okay with 2 vehicles?
Well, I go by theory. I only ask you for what I think we need, because I don't wanna bargain with you, because I'm not having a flea market here, you know? But I will tell you, yes, I'm okay with 2 vehicles, because we looked at it, I mean, 3 was what we need, because we got 3 vehicles with well over 100,000. By the time we get these, those vehicles are gonna have 130, 140,000 miles, possibly, right?
And they'll be frontline police vehicles.
Yeah, and they're gonna be our front, but 2, we can play around a little bit, we've already looked at some options. We can play around a little bit. 2 will get us where we need to be. You know, based on what's going on, it's fine. It's not critical. 3, it's not, if 3 was critical, I would tell you it's critical. But we don't need to put 3 in there and just hope we can come up with the money. If you can get 2, hell, I'll be happy if they just get here next budget year the way vehicles are. But 2's fine, 2's fine. That's not gonna create a problem.
It'll force us to look at cars in the next year's budget though.
Yeah, we're
And
just gonna
instead
have to.
of 1, it maybe 2 or 3. I mean, that's the thing we gotta think about. We're kicking
that
that can down the
We're
road.
gonna be kicking it a little bit down the road a little bit, but by next year, we got a lot more convenience stores here. We got a lot more stuff, commercial coming in. Find a couple cars, not gonna be a big deal, you know? I mean, if we need to. So I think we're okay with that.
Well, I mean, honestly, if you need 3, you're gonna need 3.
But I think,
But it's a matter of time.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, time we get to needing 3, we might need 4. But yes, you're fine. But as far as that, yes. 3 would be ideal, but it's not critical. 3 is what we need. I didn't ask for 3, hoping for 2. I asked for 3 because I think you said, what do you need? But 2 is perfectly fine. That's a good deal. That's not gonna hurt us at all. I mean, that's gonna, that's gonna be fine.
The good news is we can look down the road. If the city's doing better, more sales tax is coming in historically like we've gotten, mid-budget year, we might be able to do an amendment and add a car. It's just that's something we need to keep in our minds because like I said, these are cars that we're driving every day that we could be involved in high-speed pursuit. I mean, we could be involved in anything. And that's probably, I mean, it's not like we're driving 40 miles an hour through town or 20.
When did you last have a new vehicle?
Well, we bought one in 2019. Well, it was a 2019, so we probably got it in a couple budgets ago.
No, it's a budget for that.
Budget before that.
Yeah, so budget before last. But yeah, and then we bought 2 years before that. We bought a couple of these. Unfortunately, these are nothing like. These are tools. These aren't like you personal. I have had my pickup that I bought in 1998. So I mean, it's not your personal vehicles, and these aren't administrative vehicles that we use to go back and forth. These are mobile offices. They're tools. They're just tools. So we, it's a little different, but we 2 would be adequate. We wouldn't be in any kind of critical need situation. 2 would put us in good shape.
We talked to, Eric, remember, I think they helped, guys with Cuera, Henry Cuera, so, the center, and, he was saying that they, need some cars to, as supposed to come to the sheriff department, and some of the business, they were able to.
Might be something to look into.
I never heard nothing
Never
about
heard
that.
anything of
And
it.
we know those. I know that. I talked to the chief in Pleasanton about cars in
Pleasanton
March.
didn't get anything from that. I'm aware of, we talked to the chief over there, they went to Enterprise.
Is that what he said? Right.
Yeah, so we asked them for additional information if you could actually provide.
Pleasanton went with Enterprise. I just met with.
That's good.
I just met with the chief 2 months
He
ago.
was real quick to talk about radios and stuff like that. And
Now, it might have been the fire department or something, because they gave a bunch of radios.
Those are all
he was
grants.
saying the sheriff.
Yeah, he said sheriff department and some, so.
I've
Something we
never,
can look into.
yeah, I've talked to the sheriff and the chief in Pleasanton, and nothing like that was ever, I don't know.
To keep that as a footnote,
So they have excess vehicles?
no,
No.
this is basically through grants.
Grants, yeah.
Oh, who would be the grantor?
I mean, this would, yeah, I can get you that Eric guy's
Federal
email.
government, it's where's involved, right?
Yeah,
Homeland Security has a program, but it was even more confusing to wade through than the USDA for public safety.
well, the problem is, a lot of these places, what I've seen, a lot of these places, they can't really afford police cars, they can't really afford equipment. And, so they make good customers for these grants and programs and stuff. But it's hard when you've got, a bunch of new construction and new subdivisions, you've got all this other stuff, and then say, well, but we don't have money for police cars. Well, it makes you look like you're, need a handout, and I'm not against the grant deal, but at the same time, I mean, like I said, we've never had anyone come to us and tell us this is how you get a police car. And I go all over the country, I've gone to conferences all over the country. So, I mean, but again, I don't know, I mean, I don't hear everything, I don't know everything.
As soon as we get information, we'll let you know. Just put a footnote, just to kind of keep that, we're looking at $72,000 off to the side if something pops up where we can actually go ahead and squeeze that third car. separate vehicle. Well, not cars, no more cars.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
No
Now,
more
before I
cars.
forget,
Yeah,
on
that last one's jinx.
yeah, it's been, well, the cars are just not designed for operating in our environment here, you know? They're just not, they just don't hold up. Now, one thing before I forget on salaries, David is trying to, he should get his fire inspector's arson investigator within about, he'll get the arson within a few months, hopefully. Get his fire inspector and then I'll give him a raise, but we'll be farther enough in, I mean, that won't be anything super substantial. We'll cross that bridge when he gets completes the training. But I wanted to bring that up.
Are pickups cheaper than the SUVs? Or are they about the same?
Ford has a police rated pickup. Do you remember the prices on those, Matt?
I don't. They're gonna be a little cheaper, but by the time we outfit the bed of the truck with the cargo canister to carry everything we need, a cover to keep it secured and out of the elements, we're getting right back into the price of what the SUV is gonna
And
cost
the
us.
problem with the pickups, I like them and they're a good tool to have in the department. We probably will buy some. Is that the turning radius on them is really challenging here. You know, like on Main Street when you're trying to turn on traffic, if you're doing traffic enforcement, it's pretty hard in a pickup. Now in the rural areas, it's a little easier because you got more room. But on Main Street here, like with my pickup, it's a son of a gun to go after. If you got somebody speeding, you really got to be able to cut out. But I like the pickup. I think they hold up well, and we will be implementing them in the fleet as time progresses again. You know.
Okay. Going on to page 4. Again, most of these line items, in public safety, there's not a lot of change. We expect the maintenance to vehicles to slightly go down if police gets 2. 2 additional vehicles will increase the fuel cost, we're thinking.
We're not adding 2 additional vehicles to our fleet. Our fleet size is gonna stay the same. We're replacing cars. Maintenance, we need to talk to the chief because if we're keeping one of the older cars that still has high mileage on it, it's still gonna require, those cars are all in the shop. One's in the shop right now getting a bunch of front end work on it. So it's something just to think of.
You had one had some AC problems.
We just picked it up. We had AC problems and front end repair that we were holding off on a little bit because of it. So yeah, we're not actually increasing our fleet. We're keeping the same size.
So you think your gasoline use would stay the same? Or-
I think it'll be close. I think we need to look at what, I don't know, the gasoline chief sees all that, but I would think it would probably be fairly close. Prices are gonna be up a little bit, so. But we're not adding 2 cars to our fleet. We're taking 2 cars out, putting new cars in place.
And you're already at 12.9 right now, year-to-date activity,
On how much? On the
13.
We're talking about fuel, chief. We're not adding cars to our fleet. We're replacing cars. And then the maintenance is where it should go down because we got new cars, but we're still gonna have an older car that's gonna need repair.
Well, we don't even know we'll get those new ones. So I don't know maintenance. What do you have maintenance at, Ed?
Down 1,000 simply due to having
The
newer
new
vehicles.
Again, like Matt said, we'll be retaining at least 2 of those 3 vehicles, one for citizen patrol, one for frontline
We
police.
just see
vehicles.
how we're gonna take 2 off and put 2 on.
Yes, but we still have the citizens patrol truck that we just sold. We're not increasing our
We're not
fleet
increasing.
size.
We actually had 8 vehicles. So we will go down to 7. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes, because we got rid of the maroon car and the citizens patrol truck.
So our fleet's actually small. Will be small. But maintenance is a nightmare. I mean, a lot of it is not, it's just,
Well, you got some older vehicles, so it's,
the summer heat and snow. And I will tell you, we will burn through probably $700 or $800 worth of tires when they start building that subdivision over, if not $1,000 worth. Because what's going to happen is inevitably we're going to be heavily patrolling it, and there's going to be all kinds of nails and junk left out there. When they built HEB in the convenience store, I bet we ruined 6 or 7 tires patrolling it because of the construction. So many people there working. Now that's not any kind of technical stuff. That's just what I've noticed happened and kind of makes sense, I guess. But we can always adjust whatever you need. We can come back if we need more, need less, you know, I mean, we're gonna,
Yeah, because, we went up 5,000 on gasoline. We don't know what the price is.
Yeah, that's the big thing, the price.
that's the gas. We didn't know that, you know, we didn't know how that was gonna play out.
We might compare with those two line items, and how we do.
Whatever y'all wanna do.
Okay, up slightly on electricity. And, which you wanted to go up 1,000 on seminars.
Well, we went down 1,000 because of COVID.
Okay,
So I think we're
back
kind
to
of going
normal.
back where we were. But you know what? Yeah, well, I mean, because I've got some money in that other deal that we haven't used because of those conferences. So if you need to take that extra 1,000 there and put it on vehicle maintenance, do that. Because I think I've got $3,000 or $4,000 in the comptroller account. So just do that.
Put another 1,000 in repairs and maintenance of vehicles.
Take it off that,
50,
yeah.
And then go down on the training.
Because we've got the other money, we need to use that, it's been sitting there now for a while. And we'll have another probably $1,000 coming in February.
Okay. Emergency management expense, this is we probably need to talk about these quick connect panels because Lucy mentioned something, there's some possible law that might affect, govern how quick connect panels are used or gives guidance to the local municipalities. and how they-
Legislation in the works concerning municipalities are being prepared for something like what happened back in February, where it will be required to probably either buy generators or to have them leased and ready to go, and then the provider will have to make sure that they're up and running so that if it comes to that, and we lease them, they're ready to go. But, in talking with Tom, he seemed to think that maybe we need to wait to see what the legislature's gonna do on that.
Well, that's with the generators. This is with the building being ready to be connected, so that's different.
Okay. We can certainly add the 46 back into the 33.
At a minimum, I would say, if you wanted in council discussion, but at a minimum, I would say at least the 22.5. We need the PD, we need the well, we need the booster, city hall in there. At a minimum, be able to do the things that we need to do. That would be the minimum.
What was the minimum again?
That would be 22.5. That would be the PD, well number 2, city hall, and the booster. It's on the sheet right there. It's already. But if we got them all, it would be 46. And eventually, we're going to need to go down the road because we also have the sewer plant, portion, and that was 13.3 that went along with that. That was another discussion that we also brought up with Eric. And we also asked, hey, is there anything out there to help us out with this? But I think where we're at right now, we need to go ahead and plan for the budget and be able to take that into consideration. The siren for coal mine, we got to do it.
No, that was left in there.
Yeah, it's in
The
there.
8,000 is in there.
In the emergency management plan, we need to go
That's in
down that
there,
road.
that's in there too.
So I would ask at least be able to get that first set in there and keep it in the budget. So.
Okay.
And by the way, these are the amounts. These are amounts based on the quote that we got from the individual who came and did the site survey. Have we gotten anything from Ronnie Brown?
No, I'll have to, if we want Ronnie to meet with Ronnie physically and, because he had some additional questions, so I probably need to coordinate with him and James to go out and physically look and see.
So depending on the cost that Ronnie charges us to make it, we might be able to afford a few more sites. Since this is coming from a company, so if he can make them and do the same thing that we're trying to do, we might be able to get a few additional sites with this. So food for thought.
Okay, we'll add those back in. Down to the court. The judge's fees don't change. We expect municipal court to start operating, so we can return to what's been budgeted previously, 100,000. And the other two don't change it. Public Works, it's one employee. So it's a 3% increase for him.
Where you at? I'm sorry, page,
Salaries and wages for the street department.
oh, okay, got it. I'm with you now.
So the items tied to his salary are fairly straightforward. No big change there. So page 5. It's, consulting engineer, went up 2,500 on that. The vendor for garbage is increasing his fees by 3.8%. And the brush pickup is increasing his monthly cost to $475. The rest of the items are unchanged from the previous year. Go down the list.
Hey, Edward, I thought we had compromised at 6 on the public works equipment maintenance. Remember that was when you thought that the trucks, you didn't
Right.
change that, the trucks come out of water and sewer,
Yeah,
water and gas.
so instead of 4,000, it'd be
It's
6.
supposed to be 6,000. That's the Gator and the lawnmowers and what have you.
So is that, I gotta ask, because in the last workshop, we talked about purchasing a riding lawnmower of 6,000. So is that going there?
That's only miscellaneous equipment. And what did you say that lawnmower was gonna cost?
No, 6,000.
Okay, well, a lot of times we share the cost of miscellaneous equipment with the funds, the different funds, but he's got 5,000 in there.
Okay, we talked about a riding lawnmower, 6,000. We talked about a trencher.
That trencher would come out of water,
Okay. Got it.
right, James? It's for water, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. So it'd be just the riding lawnmower that would come in here.
And you can see most of these smaller items, no change from previous year. So moving on to the library. For community recreation, excuse me. We put in 10,000 for the roof repair for the library.
It's 10,000?
Yeah.
Where did we put the 10,000?
It's in this,
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Okay. But how did, okay, are you looking at revenues right now?
no, I'm on the.
On the you're in the, still in the general fund under
Yeah,
culture and
yeah,
recreation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When you said library, that kind of threw me.
Sorry.
Okay. What we get 10,000 for the roof, because I thought we just went up from 175 to the 180,000 there from last year.
just have 5 for the roof then, sorry.
No, it's 5 for just the maintenance of the library as a whole. Over last year's.
This is just strictly with stuff on the facility, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so 10,000 for the roof, and we also had talked about $1,000 for the flooring in the reference room.
Right.
So those are the two that I got from last time.
That's really the only repairs the library needs.
Yeah, the other stuff is equipment that they asked for. So that's included in there with the repairs and maintenance in?
That's what, the 130, no, excuse me, we gave them, let me go to mine here, this has got a little different here. Last year, we gave them 164,000, and that was, to the library for salaries and maintaining everything else. And then we had $175,000, which was 11,000 for major repairs and stuff like that.
So there's the.
And this year, we went up to 5,000 on that, and,
So my question is, are we gonna have some money left over this year that we would be able to take care of those open items?
you'll have to look at that. I'll get with Cassandra on that, if there is.
We have the money in there based on what is available,
We always do get together
yeah,
and look at
so
it.
you might be able to.
Because all you had was the roof and the floor.
Yeah, I was still getting estimates for the roof, like how much it would
Yeah.
cost for.
Edward, you never mentioned the roof to me when we were putting this together.
Well, and
It's actually in here. It's actually in
Well, I
here.
know that it was requested, but
Yeah, I also mentioned she had told the roof needs to be attention.
we just don't have a
Yeah,
firm price.
yeah, I don't have, I have one estimate, and I'm waiting on the 2 others.
What is that estimate?
The one that I got was about 28.
Thousand?
Really?
That was for the outer structure, the storage,
Yeah.
and then the gazebo as well. The person included all 3, which I thought, you don't really, the other 2 don't really need it, they're fine.
really,
Except
do
for
some
the-
shopping.
Right, so I'm waiting on the other 2 estimates.
Well, I didn't recall you mentioning the roof when we were putting this together.
Just talking about that on the front,
No, no,
the addition.
no, they were talking about the shed and the gazebo.
But they found a problem with y'all's roof, it needs a new roof. Well,
People were
I know people and stuff, but
Yeah.
they said it was bad.
Okay. Basically, most everything else stayed the same. Increase the tourism by 20,000. Simply because we think COVID's gonna be.
Well,
more
simply
travel.
because that's how much we estimated in hotel tax, and that they offset each other.
Okay, on page 6. Pretty much no change. Sandra, you think most of these should,
It was an increase, last year was 164,000, and now it's gonna be 170,000 there. So it's up 6,000 from last year. That's what you got there on yours, and that's what I have on mine as well.
The only other thing we were thinking of we might need is another computer for this patrons?
We got that.
Yeah.
Well, those were 2 staff, but there was one computer.
I know, but we got plenty
Oh,
of them.
okay.
Because he had figured 4,000 and I had 10,000 in that line item.
Okay, so on the salaries, we had budgeted last year for the library 4 employees, but the 4th employee was never hired due to COVID, so you basically kept your budget for salaries the same with an increase, and so you had the 4th employee. And other items that are tied to salaries are fairly straightforward. To the 2,000 for more books. From 20 to 22,000. We added 2 computers and 2 copiers.
But that's 4,000, 5,000 there and we put 10,000.
Okay, for one copier, we didn't need, there was just one copy.
We've got 2 copies.
Yeah, it was only
one. So it's one. Okay, so it was, originally you had mentioned 4,000 and this would add up to 5 here.
Yeah.
But anyway,
This is fairly no change from previous year. Animal control, very similar to last year. Some did say that he thinks the donations will be less next year, so we reduced that from 4 to 2,000. And they're, on their salaries, their head count stays the same. The reason the salaries are less is, the more highly paid hourly employee is gonna work less hours, so.
they did a turnaround on this last year. When we did last year's budget, Lorena was full-time and has certificates and had higher pay. And then right before the first, she asked to go to part-time and Melinda went to full-time. So that saved us some money, and that's why the salaries are lower this year. Because that's staying the same, as far as we know, unless they flip-flop again.
And the other items are tied to salaries, so there's fairly slight increases. Most of these line items stay the same, go down the list. We did, on the animal control vehicle, Santi wanted 2 pickups, and, I think the last council meeting, you pointed out, Jerry, that we're given 1, so he said he wanted the F-250, so that's what we put in
The only thing on that, and it's the one right above it, the light bars. For some reason I wrote down, it's only $100, but it was 1716 for the light bars.
there. Is that before tax, or,
That's based on the minutes.
okay, plus he gave me a quote,
Okay, maybe it was an updated quote.
and, hold on. Yeah, the light bars before tax,
You told me they were close to $800 a piece.
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, you're gonna replace.
But it'll only need 1 because he's got 1 truck. And then he'll have to have install, so, or unless he does it himself on it.
That would be-
Well, the one in the minutes,
Maintenance for
in the minutes, it said add light bars to current trucks. Total cost is 1716. I don't know what was meant by current trucks, so.
And they're on the one truck, that's what we got.
Yeah, if that's all he's gonna get, and it's probably just 1
Let's
truck,
see
he
what-
would
Maybe
need
you want
2
to
light
put
bars.
one on the van.
On the van,
That's what I was thinking.
so maybe it's the van in the new vehicle?
That's not what I was
Okay. There you go.
Does he, Does anybody know for sure that he's gonna retire the 2010? Yes. That
So-
would be too late.
Edwards, I just talk to him and just
Okay,
see,
yeah.
he can make that, it's only a few, but it's one less amendment you might need to do in the future, so.
The quote has 1,585 for two, before tax, so that's 800.
You're in, target. Thanks.
Sure. Just going down the list here. Pretty much no change for most of those items. Page 8. Same story, pretty much budgeting the same as previous years for these annual costs. And the long-term debt is fairly straightforward. It's 106,000 change.
We're good?
So, moving on to the water fund. So we have some significant increases based on the new housing construction for these water service fees. And the impact fee and the tapping fees.
This
Okay,
where-
I did check on, those were higher on the impact fees. I did check with Tom, and whatever's platted already, the new, rates I'm going for a year. Anything that's not platted, they can start right away with the new. So I did check on what you
So
mentioned to me.
that's where the year comes into.
Right, anything that's platted goes under the old rates, and you have to wait a year until those would go in effect. Anything that's not platted, the new rates would apply.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Good to know.
Because those were a lot higher before I had back down.
Are the smart meters included in this?
Yes, that's included in the tapping fees.
Okay. Good.
And so the other items are fairly unchanged from the previous year. Page 9, salaries in the water department, they kind of change, just an increase.
Okay, ever remember we were gonna subtract that 16,000 from there? Because remember we had that part-timer out of water,
Oh,
and then because water was hurting, we took that 16,000 out of there.
right, so that 196 becomes 180.
80.
And these other salary-related expenses are fairly changed. We did reduce the consulting engineer by 60,000.
And that's only because we paid a lot of it already on the 99,000 or 98,000 that these projects as well. we've already paid a lot of it out this fiscal year's budget. Depending on, it might be even less, should even be less than that, it depends on how much we get billed for the next 3 months.
Well, the YouTube deal's working out pretty good. I mean, we're just as an update, you know.
Oh.
I was just checking it out and can hear. Matt, you're here, okay?
Yeah, the audio's excellent.
Audio's pretty cool.
Is that the tablet?
Yeah.
Cleaned it up.
We had to clean it up, took a couple of hours. I used about a gallon of cleaner.
So we don't expect, have those to believe the aquifer fees would increase. The rest of these items have been changed. The trucks, we assume that the truck we're waiting on will get paid in this year's budget.
Hope so.
That's why.
If they don't, then we can go and amend the budget and
Two.
move that money forward into next year if we don't
Yeah,
get.
but one's in water.
We're hoping we're gonna get them before the end of the year. We've been waiting since January.
There is two. Only one. Is there any update on,
Last update, VINs have been issued. The guy said more than likely the trucks have been completed and they're sitting in an open field with all the other Fords waiting for chips.
When do they expect to get the chips?
Your guess is as good as in.
So we still don't know when.
That's when it's $1 million.
I can tell you
Wow, I
the
tell
fire
you, what a
department's-
mess.
we're placed an order for the new Grant truck that we got, and it's the same response from them.
Wow.
And they said the trucks, they've ordered trucks 2 weeks ago that came in versus trucks they ordered 6 months ago.
Wow.
There's no rhyme or reason to anything. They just appear when they appear.
What kind are those, Ford or Chevy or what?
These are Fords.
I'll call Chris Farley's cousin up there, he runs Ford, he can help us out.
But anyway, if we don't pay it out, we'll just move that money forward into next year. That's easy enough. But we're sure hoping to get them.
Hope so.
I know James is.
going on down the line here? We, expect to spend about 600,000 on the wells.
So that's well on the booster station.
Yeah, I told him that, when we talked with, Jeff last week, he threw out a ballpark figure of 600,000. So that's what we put in there. Edward, materials and supplies, I think is gonna have to change, because that's where those new smart meters are supposed to come out of, remember that? Didn't the council just authorize a bunch of meters?
But I thought we were using this fiscal year's money for the recent purchase. And then what we said is for next year, we said purchase 200 smart meters
That's what I remember.
at a
Remember I
cost
put
of
about the
52,000. So,
Okay.
but the ones that we authorized were the ones that are good to go, but for the budget, we said
Oh,
200 additional ones. That's
So we
52,000.
probably should add some to that 20,000. I thought it was 52,000 that we had talked about.
So that comes out of the materials and supplies.
That
too?
comes out of materials and supplies, yes.
Okay.
Okay, we'll adjust that number. We reduced the maintenance of vehicles under the assumption that we'll have 2 new vehicles, so hopefully that happens. Auction off some of these older vehicles we have here.
So quick question on the trencher. Is that supposed to come out of this area?
Yeah, miscellaneous equipment should be in there.
So that's another 40K.
I didn't have that list, so.
increase miscellaneous equipment. 40,000.
Righty, yeah, so you got 40,000 for the trencher and 52 for the smart meters.
Increase electricity a little bit, just to make sure we're covered.
And also that, it's, there's a gas fund now, right? Gas fund, now we're in the gas. fund.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah,
Okay,
yes. So not a lot of change for most of those. So on the salaries and wages, no, same number of employees, just a 3% increase. And the other salary related costs. A lot of change from the previous year on most of those items. So, on page 11. Reduce the maintenance expense for vehicles, again, slightly, just assuming we have newer vehicles in, to the department. The gas outage cost, you said that's a once every 7 year,
Yeah,
so that's why that went to 0 from 100,000 previous year. And the other items pretty much unchanged for the gas. And on the sewer, the increases are again tied to the new housing.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry, Edward, I'm looking at something. That's right. It's on the wrong page. Okay.
So, moving on to the salaries, we're paying the new city hall employee out of the sewer fund, about 30,000, which explains the increase from 64 to 95.
where is the sixth employee for James? We said that we were
well, we talked to James about that, when he talked about wanting another employee, it was the one that we had in the budget that he hadn't filled. Right, James?
so we don't need to worry about it. Okay. Got it.
Remember, we hadn't filled that position, so that's.
And again, the salary, employee-related benefits and costs are all tied to the salary, so. No significant changes there. in, page 12. Pretty much very similar, it's assuming the new vehicles come in,
So the only thing I have with those expenses on there is, we had talked about an electric panel for the lift station. That was about 15K. We had talked about a blower for the sewer plant at the cost of 2,500.
How much is the electric plant then?
The electric panel at the lift stations is 15,000.
Okay.
And then the purchase of the blower for the sewer plant, that was 2,500.
Okay. That capital improvements, wouldn't it be? That's under the 44,000?
Not to consider. They're in the-
Is
That's
that,
the main thing.
is that, how'd you come up to the 44,000, Edward? Did you just take what, because that's what we had in this year's budget.
yeah, I just assumed we would still need that if it wasn't,
It looks like we're gonna need to go up on that.
well, none of it's been spent, so.
Well, I know, but
we can-
James, wasn't there supposed to be something done to the lift station that we put in the budget that hasn't been done yet this year?
15,000 for the electric panel.
Okay, oh, okay,
Yeah.
so then that 44,000 covered that electric panel, because it was in this year's budget.
Yeah,
So we're gonna take care of that with this year's, right? Okay, we'll take care of the,
You can take care of it.
blower for the sewer plant also.
yeah, it was 25,
That's 2,500.
2,500,
Yeah.
25,000,
2,500.
okay.
We can probably take
It's-
care
So
of
this year's
I mean,
budget.
there's 44,000 in this year's budget waiting for that. So we may can amend that downward if he gets it done this year.
Yeah.
The sewer fund's sitting pretty after so many years of struggling because it doesn't have any indebtedness anymore. Of course, I'm sure it won't be too long before we have to go out for bonds for the new sewer plant, so. You wanna leave that 44,000 in there, just in case Jim sends it done? Who were you gonna get to do that? Was Lonnie gonna do that?
No, there's the guy we used for like work lines before, he had a crew that gave us a price on that.
Oh, okay,
Dudley,
yeah, Dudley. Old do right.
Those are eight.
Huh?
Those are eight.
Yes, not much younger than you.
So this, anybody having questions on the sewer portion of it? Anything that is still out there, I know there's a few, but one of them is Charles, is working on our projects for the sidewalks. And we're waiting for us to get approved on that. He had mentioned during the meeting that it would be somewhere between 150 to 350,000. And there it ended up being 336, is that right, Charles?
Didn't you say it could be worked out over a few years because we're getting that money anytime
Yeah, let me check.
too soon?
Just so if we need to calculate something, then we might as well put it in the budget, for us to go ahead and calculate something on that one. The other one is, I might have missed it, the street improvement, we had talked about maybe increasing that.
I was in the, okay,
Did we do that already? I didn't go back.
we put the 100,000 and since y'all haven't decided on the streets yet, it's gonna run close enough to the end of the fiscal year that's why I was suggested we maybe combine the 2 years and come up with the 200,000, move that money, that 100,000 that we have in this year's budget, and that way it will be $200,000. But,
Then in October.
because, yeah, we do it like in October, and that way we combine the 2 years. Because right now, here we are in July, and it's streets haven't been voted on yet, so by the time we let bids and everything, it'll probably be right around the end of the fiscal year.
I know there was some inputs on the streets, so you guys feel comfortable with that? I mean, we just need to make sure that we can cover, because we do need some work around the city.
That's over and above the asphalt that James had, the 25 tons of asphalt. You're talking about resurfacing
Right,
certain roads.
right. We have
No.
100,000 in this.
I don't have a problem moving it forward as long as, we have stuff to follow with that.
Yeah, we do have, that's a separate line item.
I know you've got a few streets too.
Yeah, it was, but.
Well, it's like I was saying a couple of months ago, the state infrastructure bank, they do have low to no interest loans right now. For, I forget what it was, I have to look up the printout. But some of these streets, if we're just going in and not addressing the underlying problem, which is the drainage, they're just gonna get washed out again. They're gonna go and fix these potholes. We keep on getting rain like we've been getting, these potholes are gonna get washed back out. I know just driving around the past couple of days, a lot of streets, it looks like they're in worse condition just because of all the water we've been getting, so. I mean, I'm all for us doing it right, because if we don't, we're gonna be back here again in a couple of years fixing the same street.
What kind of numbers you suggesting, if we go out for loan for major work like that?
I know,
1 million, 5 million, what are you talking about?
I sent an email to Chris Knoll, she was in TxDOT, she looked at district office, and she sent me some info. I guess I could add it to the meeting from Monday night, run some numbers, and you kind of get in the ballpark of where we're gonna be. But it's gonna be in the millions, I think. I mean, but if we're paying that over the course of 20, 30 years, if we're paying $100,000 a year on that debt, that might be a better option than trying to just do,
Love to see
half-ass
the numbers
jobs.
on that. I agree with what you're talking about. If we're gonna do it, we need to do it right. But we need some kind of ballpark anyhow, figures.
Well, of course, the city streets is the one, the ones I'm really talking about. I guess we just need to get TxDOT back out here and have them look at the needs we have on the state highways. And some of the streets that have been brought up recently, our streets, they're in rough shape. I mean, all the ones in mid-district, Sam, the ones out there in the Twin Lakes that don't even,
It's not even
they're
street.
not even street, they're like,
Cow trail.
was that Chief, did you hear that suggestion? We should just close whatever that is, 6843, the one over the one that we have the trash problem on. Why not just close the road, and you don't have to worry about paving it. People just make them drive around further. But,
I don't think that people would appreciate that.
I can tell you if we don't address it soon, you won't have an issue. It's gonna close itself.
Because people actually reside along that road already. They don't, if there was no people and they terminated in that corner, but as you all know, there's people that actually purchased even inside the lake. What used to be the old lake, there's homes in that area now.
yeah, I have an issue with that developer because they bought the lakes and then they replatted it and they're selling them an acre of land that's only half an acre. Yeah, if you go look at it right now, they got lots that are, half of it is in the lake, so.
Has Medina County said anything about working with us and maybe if we pay some of the money that they'll do the work like
Well,
they did it on
what-
6710?
What they said, what they already have next year's already set up, in the sense of the entrances, they already have those projects set up. But they're getting ready to purchase some equipment, so what they were saying is that once they got the equipment, they would come back and let us know, because it might be cheaper if we ask them to do it. So we get a cheaper price to get it through them, and they would do it for us. But, I think the biggest thing is on those roads, we need to do something about it, and whether it's a temporary fix or I agree with Charles, some of these roads, we need to start from the very bottom and build them up. But I think down there, we're already at the bottom.
We are at the bottom of
We're at
that
the
one.
bottom.
It's
So
awful.
it's better just to put an overlay on them and be able to take care of them. Be able to do that. I don't think we need to put as much engineering into those roads compared to some of the streets that we actually have.
Going back down the bottom, because they keep stealing it, right,
Like
James?
seal coat on 6843.
Yeah.
Can we get by with the seal coat out there, James?
There was,
Can we get by with the seal coat on 6843?
I don't think so. That whole thing's gonna have to be rebuilt. That's down to nothing.
You talking about, is that the one Quara lives on, or is that the thing?
No, that's
That's the
6842.
That's the one that runs in between the.
The jet by the lake.
That's where all the trash
What
is.
you're talking
The
about?
one that
That's all
continues
trash
on
area.
past.
It's a disaster. Have y'all
It's
been out there and
horrible. It's
physically
horrible.
looked at the trash?
Yeah, it's been a month or so.
It's, we were out there and it's, Matt and I were out there,
solid.
It's a 1-lane road.
it's a one-lane road.
Yeah.
Begin-
Potholes are 2 foot deep,
Yeah.
and they're
The drop-offs are like this. So anybody out there working on it, I mean, it's,
I was wishing I had driven it because I went in my car and I thought, oh,
No,
God,
it's-
you better
it's-
take it.
there was at least 8 mattresses,
It was
probably
horrible.
50, 75 tires, there's dishwashers.
Yeah.
Bags of trash are the easy thing. There's probably 1,000 bags of trash, but that can be picked
Horrible
up.
out there.
So James, what do you recommend for that, for those roads, just if we could actually,
Gonna have to build it up, right?
Yeah, they're
From
gonna both
the
be built
bottom
up.
It's just- It's awful.
That one in front of Quara, that's gonna have to be, there's gonna have to be some drainage in it too, because there's 2 spots that hold water. Like I said, the people on the, between them and the lake have it built up with a water can. It's gotta build up and go over. I don't know what you do, but I don't know how you get the water to the lake there.
When I was looking at a map of that, James, and there's a lot there close to the intersection of 68 and 43, that it looks vacant. I don't know, we could look and see if it's,
See, there's a big hole down there towards the end, and we fill that up with, textile material twice now, and it's still a hole. Someone down there's got a bobcat.
Isn't that awful? They come and dump the trash, but they take our,
Yeah,
so going back to this, do
Street
we feel, just for the budget purposes, do we feel comfortable with just 100,000 for next year? You wanna bump it? I know we're looking at maybe a possibility of a loan and we can consolidate everything, but we would use the money to be able to pay for the loan.
Well, right now we have what, 100,000, and we're gonna add another 100,000, 200,000.
200,000.
are we carrying that over?
Well, yeah, we could, because I know that we're gonna be able to get that project done before the end of the year. If y'all haven't agreed on roads yet, and then we'll have to put them out for bids, we'll have to measure them, put them out for bid. It'll be close to the new year, so if we lump them together, that's how we get our 200,000.
And if we do what Charles is talking about here, it's not quick to get that done. Get a loan,
Right,
to do engineering, get a contractor, and get started on this road. You're
What about-
looking at a lot.
I would think with 200,000, it's wherever we can.
And then
You're
Keep
thinking about
working on
getting the loan.
another.
Well, I think in order to qualify, our audits are gonna need to be completed before we can probably even borrow money from the infrastructure thing.
We're getting there.
There
You
you
know,
go.
we have a timeline on the audits, be wrapped up.
Be out here again,
Next week,
next week for 2 days, and, Wednesday, Thursday. And the idea is they're gonna wrap up the first year. And we still owe them some information, Joyce and I are working on. But
but they're getting information for the next year to where it's gonna
So
move up to 20.
can I just make, I'll just go ahead and say, can we go ahead and bump it up 150,000 for next year? So we have 50 grand for engineering purposes, because, we're gonna, no matter what, we're gonna have to go down that road. And then by the time we actually get a loan, or if we go down the road of the loan, everything revolves around an engineering design and getting an idea of what's gonna happen, or what we need to do. So I would recommend that
We can bump it up, but it's just gonna put us in the red that much more.
once again, the main purpose right now is figure out what the gap is, right? So we can figure out the options. So,
But yeah, I think it would be a mistake, especially if we're gonna be focusing on doing the correct, capital improvement on streets, not get it engineered properly for drainage and all that, so. If we can swing that, that'd be great.
Would we need the engineering studies before we apply for the loan you're talking about?
Oh, yeah, sure. I wanna make sure that we're just not
Or
flushing, going into Twin Lakes.
Money in it for the, otherwise, just cutting into the repair money for the engineering studies.
exactly, we're gonna cut into the 200 that we're actually looking for. That's my recommendation. It would be that.
So what you plan?
Charles, how about going back to the sidewalks? Anything that we need to include in there to make sure that we can cover?
What, the 20% was 366, the 20% local match. David was saying that was on the high end, of course. They wanted to go high because if you go low, then you're gonna have to put more money.
And you said that could be, worked into the budget over 3 years, time?
I believe so. I think if you have 3 years, once you accept the grant, if you're awarded the grant, from the time that you accept it, you get 3 years.
Is this with TechStop?
That is just the TxDOT, Transportation Alternatives Grant.
We did that, we did ask Charles, to, even though the answer more than likely is gonna be no, because in any grant or anything that you do, you're gonna have to pay your own, right? But we did ask the Congressman's aide, is there anything out there to kind of help even pay the offset that comes to the city? So he said he was gonna check into it. Is there anything on this, on that?
Well, I think that the problem with us right now is that they used to have a credit thing, but it's based off the median family income. And now we're outside of that, which is a good thing for the people living out here, but bad for us to get part of the money now, so.
But more than likely, the answer's gonna be no, but we did ask that, so just so you guys will know. See if there's any.
Did you say something about drainage? That's for drainage?
That was for, yeah, it's something different, yeah. That's for the streets, there's sidewalks, I'm sorry, that we asked.
Maybe we could get somebody from the congressman's office to make a presentation to council to let us know what's out there.
Did you ask, the year?
That would be kind of nice if they.
I did, it didn't, I mean, okay, since I'm, it didn't seem like we really had it, it was more a one-way conversation. We asked for stuff, we really didn't get some of the answers that we were asking for. I think he was just writing stuff down, right?
Yeah, it was.
So there's answers to become, but we did offer him to come to council, and be able to present at any time. So, and we told him,
There's
just let us
money out
know.
there, we definitely need to.
Just let us know. Try to do that. So basically, we're still waiting, Charles, on that. If we needed to put a ballpark figure in the budget, do you want to do a third of that in there, or?
Oh, for the grant?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to set it aside. It's just one of those deals. I think we'd probably take out, as far as financing goes, get a certificate of obligation too.
Yeah, that might be the thing to do when it comes time. We can go ahead and get certificates and then add,
I mean, because if we're saying,
add
okay,
streets, more street improvements.
If
to that
we-
certificate.
if we have, 3 years to come up with that money, hey, we're waiting, I think the timeline on that's like 18 months to get it built, so it's like, okay, 5 years from now, we can have our sidewalks, when they probably needed them, when the school was built, sort of deal, but I
This
think
is sounding
that-
worse.
Yeah.
5 years away? Wow.
Well, it's like anything, it's just
Yeah,
government,
all those
slowly.
hoops you gotta
So-
go.
They won't even walk anymore by then.
no, we'll have hover bikes, hopefully we'll have hover bikes, but,
Ah,
I would say, but not even factor that grant money, because we gotta get awarded the grant first.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet.
And I think but I'm confident that we will, but I think the certificate of obligation is probably the better bet than try to budget that
Because I was,
366.
we're talking about all these streets. And maybe in the certificate of obligation, when we go out for the sidewalks, we could include a hefty sum in there for streets to where we can really get something done. Make it a joint project.
Yeah, 'cause-
Well, we'll be looking real good in 5 years, won't we?
I'll be dead and gone.
I mean, you got a big drainage issue, you know, over there by the school too, where the sidewalk
Yeah.
be going in and, what is that, Laredo and Prairie Street, there's a lake out there. And then maybe, you know, bring that back towards downtown sort of deal. I know that Prairie Street's actually in pretty good shape. all things considered.
Another thing that needs to be considered, and there again, that might, y'all might consider that, lumping it together with the certificate of obligation. This drainage issue, starting with Lakeshore up downstream. I mean, if we do something in Lakeshore, we better do something downstream, or we're gonna have a hell of a problem downstream. So that's not gonna be cheap. So maybe the certificate, make it a joint thing with that too. We get drainage, streets and sidewalks.
We considered that in Easy Street, drainage.
That was already money.
That's money that's there. In fact, that's that 50,000 that's being moved since we haven't gotten to that this year. So, there's a lot out there to be done, and I don't think we're gonna get it done with this. We're gonna have to go out for certificates at some point, if we wanna get it done.
Well, you know where that water from Easy Street's gonna end up, right? It's gonna end up in the creek back there.
Down the railroad.
Is that water in your house yet, Richie?
Now, my house is pretty far from the creek, but it goes closer as it gets back towards
As it gets
Betty
back
and
to,
everybody.
yeah.
It's like, but, what I saw the other day was that it was outside the banks. I mean, talking
No, it
about,
was below,
I know we're getting off the topic here, but it's like
well, you know, we've got,
drainage, it's like, that's a multi-million-dollar expense probably.
the drainage stuff you see every day, there's still probably a pond of water down there at Denton
Oh, yeah.
and Maine. You know, it's probably, and it's that, and it'll be that way for a day or two.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
bad.
Rain
Over
night.
here by Taco Bell, down a lot of, I mean, those places are just
James
terrible.
did a great job, by the way. He did a great job with that V and getting the water to run off and get into the little.
You
That's
see,
all it took? I saw it today, this afternoon.
when we get half the water, we can drain half the water won't stay on the road anymore. We got that drained. The other half is,
It was designed wrong though.
Yeah.
It was that they needed like a stormwater sort of deal to carry it down to the.
Where was this?
across from Taco Bell, the exit of Taco Bell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that deal on the HEB side, this should have been totally put in there.
So it was, that adjustment made a difference. I mean, you can tell it actually drains. So, and it goes down all the way through, you know, through the car wash place, down into, Bill Miller's, down into the Napa.
So if we fix that little stretch right there, can we fix that now without it being washed out immediately? How the road's all chewed up and everything?
Yeah, we just have to wait for it to dry up, dress it up. We
I
just,
didn't wanna go down that road. I'm trying to avoid
That
it.
road, I mean, yeah, that road looks like it's a war zone.
You would think people wouldn't be speeding down that street to Shaker's End.
Ram lost a cap.
No, that was it. And the funny thing was that I was driving around looking at drainage on Tuesday, and right there on the other, right by Karen Bragg's house, I had somebody pass me on Lytle Somerset in the rain, and they blew through the stop sign at McDonald's. I'm just like, where are you going? And I followed
Where the
them, and they went to Constantine's Dentist. You know, it's like, toothaches suck, but I mean,
that's what I mean.
it's like, where are you going? But I guess, you know, Karen, they have a point. People do drive like
Oh, it's,
maniacs.
you know,
Well, I
it's-
tell you what, those
it's,
people do not observe the stop signs, they're gonna be speeding. Just like that girl that barreled into the back of me a couple of years ago, man, she was coming, and she never stopped at either stop sign.
Instead of speed bumps, what about spike strips, Chief?
Well, I mean, you know,
Oh,
And we impound, we sell their cars. That's how we raise money. All right, okay.
Which he
Okay.
does do.
All right.
Selling cars. So Charles, you wanna just leave it open in the sense of nothing on the budget?
I would just leave, the grant off for right now, and then we can look into that, you know.
If I don't make get that approved for this year,
I think we're supposed to know by October. And then even then, they said if you might get like on the waiting list, like it might be approved, but they only have so much money, and then once they pass the
So
infrastructure
we may be
bill,
on the next
we
side.
might be able to get it next year, sort of.
so we don't have to do it now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're talking
The
about
only, the only thing, the
6
only,
years instead of
the only
5.
the only magical thing out there that could speed it up is there's money that is flowing for infrastructure improvements from the federal level down to TxDOT. So depending on how they prioritize, it might get bumped up quicker than we expect. So just kind of keep an open mind on that.
Yeah, these other projects we're talking about kind of in the planning stages, I think.
And you already have the engineering, you already got everything, I mean, so boom, I mean, those are the opportunities. And then for the street improvements, everybody, we said everybody's okay with 150,000, just bumping it up, so we give ourselves the engineering portion of it.
Better than budget.
The engineering portion of it?
The 50 grand, put an extra 50 for the engineering if we need
I thought we had that in engineer's fees. Did we have engineering in that?
All we're saying is, give us the flexibility, so we have the engineers do that portion for the streets, even if we go on certificates of obligation or other ways.
Consulting engineer, is that what we're looking
Yeah, that's, hold on a second, let me, no, we got, I thought we had some in that budget, 62. Yeah, 7,500 is what we had put aside. We had, remember, we had reduced that. Let me look at this year's budget.
It's
7,500 is what he put in
So you want
the
to
general.
increase that by 50?
yeah, it's easily, you're looking at about somewhere between 30 to 50 for engineering costs, just to be able to do that.
And we're gonna add something to the street improvement capital for streets, or leave that at a?
You want the 50 added to the engineering though, right?
Well, whichever we can have the flexibility, we're talking about the capital improvements for the streets, so as long as it's engineering designated for the streets. So if you want to code it a different way, that's fine,
Well,
but
we've got an engineer line item in there.
go ahead and put them at the 50.
So 100 in the street maintenance and then 50 for the engineering.
Edward, anything else you need from
No,
us?
I think we covered it, I think. Can I see something later? Let us know. Talk about it Monday.
Josie, anything else?
No, we work it one more time.
Mm-hmm.
We've only done it 3 times already.
Council, anything?
This, the handbook revision I'm working on, there's gonna be some expense for a final review of that. I talked to, HR specialist up in town today, and just to give you a ballpark idea. And, to do the handbook, and also she suggested any new hire paperwork you have. She would need to do a review of that at the same time, because she sees a lot of conflict. Cities redo their handbooks, but then they don't look at their new hire paperwork. And they have people sign things, then they give them a handbook that contradicts something they just signed.
Yeah.
So, we're looking at somewhere between $1,200 and $1,500 for a final review. Yeah,
We've got
just to let you-
30,000 under professional fees. that
Okay.
probably-
So just a heads up on that, there is gonna be an expense, and, that's a ballpark.
We kind of figured if we had somebody over, looking it over, that it would be sort of.
If we go to a lawyer, a law firm that does it, it'd probably be more because of the hourly rate. She's at $200 more.
Jerry,
Yes, with that, but
how's the hearing? How's the sound in here?
much better.
Yes.
It's a lot better. Yeah, and it sounds, I guess, sounds good.
Sounded excellent when I was listening in.
So I guess everything works out pretty good. So if nobody has anything else, it's 8:10. We can go ahead and conclude our workshop. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Look forward to Monday and get into our regular business. And Charles, thanks for the heads up too on the opportunity to put a